Hello everyone, this is Dr. Patrick Asansa, your HR coach. Today, our topic is employee engagement in the time of pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected almost every country, and businesses, economies are forced to go on a lockdown. And because we need to continue to do work, the pandemic has changed the way we do things, and workers now are allowed to work from home. Management has allowed them to do their work remotely, and the challenge now, especially on the part of the HR managers and HR leaders, is how to make sure that all these employees who are working remotely away from the usual workplace remain engaged. And surely the HR managers would not like the employees to be feeling isolated as they work away from the offices, away from the eyes of the management, away from the supervisors that are there in the past providing them certain assistance. And HR leaders therefore have to make sure that they are able to put in place certain measures to keep the spirits of the employees up as they are there working, doing their jobs in their homes. Employee engagement is defined as a measure of the degree of relationship between the workers and the company. Supposedly, it shows us the extent of how passionate employees are in doing their jobs. It relates somehow to their willingness to go beyond what is necessary in order to provide customers with an excellent experience, which in a way would give it a wow factor. You see, only committed or engaged employees would be willing to go an extra mile. And this somehow shows company loyalty. So, employee engagement measures the emotional commitment or emotional investment of employees to their organization. The degree to which employees invest their cognitive, emotional, and behavioral energies towards achieving the objectives of the company is exactly what employee engagement is all about. And from the point of view of HR, employee engagement is an approach to keep employees committed to their jobs and to the company. HR practitioners should remember that employee engagement impacts on at least 6 business metrics. Number 1, it improves productivity and work efficiency. Number 2, it reduces employee turnover, and somehow it's related to company loyalty. Number 3, it lowers the rate of absenteeism and tardiness. Number 4, it enhances customer retention because of the wow factor or extra mile being contributed by engaged employees. Number 5, it results to higher revenues. And number 6, hopefully, it redounds to increased company profits. Now let us consider the drivers for employee engagement. What do you think are the factors that would allow employees to stay with their jobs, or the things that would make them decide not to leave their jobs? And I could think of 7 factors. This is not an exclusive list, but I think if an employee sees this, then they would tend to stay with their jobs. Number one is if they think that their job is meaningful. Number two, if the job allows career growth, they would stay. And number three, if they have this sense of empowerment, if their company makes them feel empowered, then they might stay. Another factor, which is number four, is the sense of belongingness. For example, they may not leave the company even if the salary may not be that high, but if they feel that they belong, it's just like being part of the basketball team in your school that you may not want to leave because you'll be missing your basketball playmates, and so you stay with the team, you stay with the school, and in this sense you stay with the company. Of course, the fifth is recognition. If the company provides recognition or rewards your good performance, then somehow it would tend to make you stay. Number six is, of course, the leadership or the company management. A lot of people who are being mentored by really good bosses, really good supervisors or managers would want to stay because they learn a lot from their managers. And the last one I could think of, number seven, is fulfilling work relationships. If I'm with a team who allows me to really explore my work, and as I work with them, I get to have this sense of achievement, then I would tend to stay with the company. Now, employee engagement has really a lot of contributions to the growth of the company. According to a Gallup survey, for example, employees who are engaged are 17% more productive than those employees who are not engaged. In 2005, according to a Towers Perrin survey, companies with high performance or high employee engagement had 19% higher net profit margin and 25% greater earnings per share. Watson Wyatt, in another survey, showed that 60% of engaged employees exceed performance. And so a lot of this would really help push the growth of a company. And so that is how important employee engagement is. And HR practitioners, HR managers should take note of how important employee management is able to drive the growth of the company. Of course, there are at least 4 levels of employee engagement, and we have to understand these levels of engagement. The first one being the basic engagement, that employees just do what is expected of them. The second one is when they consider themselves as suppliers of services. And when they do, they become like independent contractors who think about profitability and who think that they need to do something better because as suppliers of services, they have a commitment to the company and a certain level of expectation from the company that they need to deliver at that level. The third one is when they are being engaged as leaders, and employees think that the management has a certain level of trust on them, and somehow they are called upon to provide some advices or some inputs to management. And of course, the number 4, which is the highest level, is beyond ownership, and that is when the employees really become very passionate about their jobs. They have this sense of ownership about their work, and not just about their work, but even about the company, that they would like to think that they must do and contribute more because they are responsible for the existence, for the growth, for the success of the company. And so, how exactly do we measure employee engagement? There are, of course, given this time of advanced technologies, machine learning and artificial intelligence would now allow us to measure employee engagement. And as they log in to their computers, we would somehow be able to predict or get information in terms of what information they access, in terms of what websites they go into, in terms of the data that they process, in terms of the conversations they make, etc., etc. Machine learning and AI would allow us to be able to measure the degree of their involvement or commitment to the company. But aside from that, we have some traditional measures of employee engagement, and this comes in the form of survey. Gallup, for example, has the so-called Gallup Survey Q12, which allows to measure the core elements needed to attract, focus, and retain the most talented employees. Gallup Q12 survey actually measures workplace elements directly linked to performance outcomes. The survey measures actionable issues for management, issues predictive of attitudinal outcomes such as employee satisfaction, loyalty of the employee to the company, and the sense of pride of employee for being part of the company. In the recent Gallup survey that was conducted in the United States, it showed that American employees are at an engagement rate of about 30%. And in a counterpart survey conducted in the Philippines, Filipino employees were found to be at 29% engagement rate. Now, if we want to make sense out of this result, what do we actually mean by that? It simply says that, for example, 30% engagement rate, then for every 10 employees that you have, you actually just have 3 employees who are working at full rate productivity, and the rest are simply giving their bare minimum capabilities. Now, from the behavioral science standpoint, if we try to analyze employee engagement, we would realize that somehow this employee engagement is related to how we fulfill specific human needs. Now, workers as humans have, at least from the point of view of employee engagement, 4 human needs. First one is, of course, the physical needs. And so this would require that management should be able to balance between the work and the family life or the personal life of the worker, and therefore be able to address certain needs, physical needs for the employee, for him to be able to really be engaged, such as the requirements of his family for food and other necessities. The second one is about emotional needs, and this has something to do with a sense of trust and the self-esteem that the employees would enjoy while working for a company. If, for example, the company has a very positive company culture which espouses strong teamwork, strong family orientation, then chances are the emotional needs of the employees would be properly addressed. But if there is a blame culture in the company and there is lack of management support, then this would also affect the level of engagement of the employee. The third human need is, of course, the mental need. And this has something to do with the ability of the employee to focus and to be creative and to decide. If there are unclear goals in the company, if there is a lack of feedback on what the employee is doing, or he is not allowed to have access to important information, to information that he needs to fulfill his job, or he does not even have a sense of approval of what he can do for the company in terms of his assignment, then chances are the employee will not be that engaged. And of course, the last one is the spiritual need of the employee, and this has something to do with the ability of employees to connect to a shared vision or a shared value with the company. So if you realize if there is a dissonance or there is no congruence between the personal value of the employee vis-a-vis the values that is being promoted in the company, then chances are he wouldn't stay. And it is, for example, a good thing for companies to have some social awareness and some social responsible actions and activities that would allow the employee to relate his own values with that of the company. For example, if the company has a social responsibility programs that allows the employee to relate his commitment to serve his community, then chances are the employee would stay with the company because it fulfills that specific spiritual need of the employee. Now, why do we need to discuss all these human needs or these 4 specific human needs in terms of employee engagement? Because if we try as HR managers or HR professionals, if we try to improve on the levels of employee engagement, then we know that we need to satisfy specific personal employee needs, and this have to be addressed by the company. How then can human resource practitioners or HR managers advise management as to how employee engagement can be improved or increased? Well, the direct solution is really for management to consider ensuring that the work environment and the company culture satisfy the specific human needs, or what we call PEMS: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs of the workers. Now, as HR practitioners, we are entrusted by the company to develop an employee engagement strategy. It is incumbent upon us to devise, to strategize, to come up with a specific plan of action that would increase the likelihood that employees will establish a positive emotional connection with the company. So we must be able, with the help of company managers or middle managers and supervisors, we must be able to make employee engagement as a part of the company DNA. Managers must inject employee engagement in their day-to-day activities, and managers must be able to develop amongst the employee or share with the employees the engagement culture of the company. We can do this as we conduct our day-to-day meetings with them, as we conduct our weekly reporting, or as we do our regular town halls. Somehow, the employee engagement culture has to be injected into all these company activities for it to become an effective means of improving company productivity and profitability. HR managers should be able to realize that the composition of the company workforce may not be that homogeneous. There is the so-called multi-generational workforce that is composed of employees coming from different generations. Of course, there will no longer be those from the lost generation, nor from the greatest generation, and neither from the silent generation. But certainly there will be those coming from the baby boomers, Generation X, and Generation Y, or the so-called millennials. Maybe there may not be those coming from Generation Z, and of course the Generation Alpha, who are the children of the millennials. But if you have at least 3 or 4 different types of generations of workers, then as you put together an employment engagement strategy or employee engagement strategy for the company, then you have to make sure that you are able to address the different types of human needs of these different types of workers. Of course, the best way to handle these issues about multi-generation workforce is to avoid stereotypes. We should allow every worker to show his or her own worth. And so we must encourage collaboration among these workers, different type of generation of workers. And maybe it would be good for us to ask questions during our meetings and allow them to also ask questions, because as we do so, they become more engaged. And it is in this exchange of ideas across the workers of different generations that there would actually the blending of their talents and ideas that would enable the company to benefit more from their different types of expertise or opinions or suggestions, recommendations. Of course, one of the focus is on our approach to technology, and somehow we need to provide that to those regardless of which generation he or she belongs to. Company must be able to provide that kind of support because it is needed in this time of the pandemic. Now that we have understood the importance of employee engagement in improving company productivity and profitability, we would realize that certainly we need to be able to adapt new strategies during this time of the pandemic so that even as our employees are working from home or are assigned remotely from company premises, then we are still able to ensure a high rate of employee engagement. I could think of at least 5 employee engagement strategies that would help HR perform its role in supporting the company in this time of lockdown, or even as we go back to the new normal. I would think that first, we need to strengthen the communication system in the company. That is a very important step so that we are able to maintain our connection with our employees. If we fail to have a strong communication network with our workers, then they would feel isolated. They will feel unconnected to the company, and especially if they are a very important resource that provides critical support or services to our clients, then we need to ensure that we are able to get in touch with all of them, not just to provide work instructions, but to look after them, to make sure that they are doing well, that their families are not suffering from anything related to this pandemic or any other issues, even economic concerns, because it is at this time that we are most needed by our employees. And it's also a strong communication network will also allow them to get in touch with their co-workers, collaborate with them, ask questions, or even socialize with them. And the next one that I can think of is company employee engagement managers should be able to cheer up our employees who are working from home and provide some sort of an appreciation or a reward system, a confirmation that they are doing things right. The third one is that company during this time of pandemic must be able to observe flexibility and agility so that we are able to address certain concerns of our employees who are working from home. If, for example, they need to do things for their families at the same time, we must allow some flexibilities in our work rules so that they are able to address these specific concerns. And the fourth one is that we must be able to create a virtual community with all our workers. We must be able to get them connected into our system and with each other, because this will prop up their confidence, this will provide them an extended family and allow them to have confidence in facing this pandemic, knowing that they are not alone, knowing that they have a support community, that they have someone to turn to just in case something gets worse and something gets rough, or should anything happen to them or to their families. And the last one, which I can think of as part of employee engagement strategy of the company during this time of pandemic, is our ability to host online team building activities. Of course, now that they are working from home, and even if they get back to our workplace as our lockdown eases up, there should still be social distancing, and our team building activities must be able to address that. The internet provides us with various alternative online team building activities. Vantage Circle, for example, offers the 10 best online team building activities that they think are suitable for this time of the pandemic. So they have a suggestion for number 1, online office games. Number 2, team health challenges. Number 3, virtual coffee breaks. Number 4, spread the knowledge, like sharing what you know. Number 5, dig up a fact about, for example, the company, like a trivia contest. Number 6 is the quiz app. Now it's time for you to provide a quiz to your employees. If you are into coding, then you can have a coding exercise or whatever, a fun quiz that they might be engaged. And then you can also have number 7, meetings over lunch. Or number 8, you can also have solve it. Like you can pose a problem that they can find solutions, and this may not necessarily be related to their jobs. And number 9, they can create stories, or sometimes become even more creative, like they can make use of songs, dances in their presentation of their stories. And number 10, in a way, so that you are able to encourage them to share something about themselves, they can have a Who Are You contest. So all these online team building activities are actually designed for them to get connected, for them to somehow have a break in their monotonous work from home life, and also to allow them to have some fresh things in mind as they try to have some rest in their day-to-day work from home jobs. So creating an engagement strategy is very crucial because somehow this could define the success of your company's work from home strategy. If you are able to support your employees in terms of employee engagement activities, then that will be able to help them have a positive outlook and at the same time have an increased engagement with their work and with their company. So the last thing that I would like to emphasize is, as HR managers or HR professionals, we need to build a culture of engagement. We need to allow our employees to have this sense of ownership. If you remember the 4 levels of employee engagement that we discussed earlier, it is at that point when they feel that they can act like owners in promoting the interest of the company and of everyone in the company, that they become so passionate about their roles in the organization. So our employment or employee engagement strategies should enable us to promote that kind of sense of ownership among our employees. And by doing so, we actually have transitioned them from that approach or outlook of dependency on the company to a sense of empowerment, to a sense of commitment to act like the owners in promoting the interest, the profitability, the productivity of the company. By allowing these employees to have a sense of ownership of the company, we actually introduced a different type of leadership in the organization. And it is like a bottom-up leadership approach wherein our employees, especially during this time of the pandemic, are empowered to do what they think is right as they work from home, as they work remotely from our company premises, so that they are able to accomplish what is required by the client and what is essentially the main objective of the company in order to successfully deliver the expected services to its customers. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We again had another productive day on HR, and we learned about employee engagement in this time of pandemic. And if you want to continue receiving a copy of my videos and my presentations, don't forget to like my FB page and subscribe to my YouTube channel and click down below. Thank you and have a wonderful day.